Hello out there. You're about to see a slideshow that we took while on a Caribbean cruise with Doug and Sheri between January and February of 2013. This was a Southern Caribbean cruise from Miami and hit 5 ports. The hotel where we stayed before the cruise, and we also had dinner there that evening. The next morning, while waiting for the bus to take us to the ship, it was running late because of a marathon in town, but that didn't discourage Sheri and Doug. The next several pictures show you where our cabins were located on the rear of the ship, and also you can get to see some of the cabin sizes, Doug's penthouse, and our little old mealy balcony. After unpacking, we went up on deck and had the first of many drinks, watched the activities, and then got to watch Miami fade in the distance. That evening, we had our first meal, lobster, at the main dining room. The next 2 days were at sea days, where the only exciting things we did was the cruise critic meeting, and we had dinner at the bistro and did some gambling down in the thing. Didn't win. I wish I had played dollars instead of pennies, though. Our first stop was St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, where we rented a car. Doug drove, and we drove up the mountain to our first tourist trap called Mountaintop, which was very, very interesting. That's Mountaintop's claim to fame. We also took some pictures from their overlook with Doug and Sheri and Mom and Sheri, and Doug and I, and we were overlooking Megan's Bay. Megan's Bay is supposed to be one of the 10 most beautiful beaches in the world, according to the National Geographic magazine. Our next stop was Megan's Bay, and the magazine was right. It is very beautiful. We played on the beach for a while, got our pictures taken. Here I was taking a picture of that real handsome, suave, debonair guy who keeps his hat on even when he is swimming. Smart man. After a little swimming and drying off, we then proceeded to our next destination, Coral World. We arrived along with a slight rain and went and visited the Undersea Observation Tower, where you can take stairs down 15 feet and see the coral from the observation windows down below. The next exhibit was the Turtle Pond, where hatchlings in 1997 have grown to be over 100-pound turtles today. Next was the Shark Tank, where you can see local sharks from below and above in the pool. The sharks are local sharks caught by Coral World for the demonstration. Also in the tank was some live coral with little fishies swimming around it and a live sponge growing on it. We next walked through a aviary that contained quite a few birds and also flowers on our way up to the next exhibit. Marine Gardens, an aquarium with about 24 tanks of various coral, fish, and other species that live around the area. Even this big mamu lobster. Next to Coral World was this beach where you could go down to and do a little scuba diving. Doug and Sheri tried it and enjoyed it quite a bit. Also by the wall there was these shells buried in the cement. After the swim, we drove back to the port, walked through a small shopping area, and then went to the balcony to have drinks. As we leave St. Thomas, a rainbow appears pointing to the pot of gold. It is now day 5 of our cruise, and we dock at Rosu, Dominica. Here we are walking from the ship to downtown Dominica, It was at this port that we took separate tours. Doug and Sheri went on bumping tours, and we took the ship's sponsored tour. This was the tour that we took. It was designed for us older folks in mind. Here's Jeff, our tour guide that took us around and showed us the island. I sitting in where the driver normally would sit, looking up and down the streets from the driver's position. Very, very interesting ride. We passed this old cemetery while on our way to a visitor center that was located on the mountaintop. From there you could look down and see the ship at the dock. We then left the mountaintop and drove through a county park with all the little county things. Here is a school bus that was collapsed by a 400-year-old tree. We then drove along the coast and saw the sights, so we were on our way to stop Hibiscus Falls. You can see Barbara down there after she hiked down the gorge to take pictures of the falls. They were very, very beautiful. Along with the falls, there was a little river, and along the river you could see a flower growing. Closer look at the flower and you can see why the falls are named as they are. Here are the pictures from Doug and Sheri's tour. Since I wasn't along, I can't make too many comments to it, so I'll let you watch them and play a little background music. After enjoying these two tours, we hiked back to the ship along the long dock and say farewell to Dominica. It was a very, very pleasant trip. That evening, we ate at the specialty restaurant, the Teppanyaki. It is now day 6 of the cruise, and our stop is Barbados, Bridgetown, a very interesting place. We rented a car here so that we could go see the various sights. It was a Koki, a very unique vehicle. It had no doors. It was really tight, and you had to like each other to get into it, and it was fantastic for getting in and out of. We passed this deserted plantation while driving around. We found this nice-looking park in front of the plantation that had a scenic overview, and you could see all the way out to the ocean. We then drove over to one of Mom's favorite things, a windmill. The sign said that it was the only working windmill in the Caribbean, but from the looks of it, it hadn't spun in years and years. So I think that was just something left over from the old days. There was a working farm in the backyard of the mill, and also Sheri saw some more interesting things. Here she took a picture of this. Well, we had enough, so we left the mill and on our way down the road again. We drove down the road a bit, past St. Nicholas's Abbey, on our way to Harrison's Cave. We were going to take the cave tour, but it started too late. So instead of seeing caves, we went to see orchids at Orchid World, a very interesting place with lots and lots of orchids. Let you see some pictures of them. After this last picture at Orchid World, we then went to the Sunbury Plantation and Museum, a very interesting look into the history of how they used to live back then. After inspecting the cannon, there was a self-guided tour of the interior showing how it was decorated in late 18th century. This pot was almost as good as some of that Barbara does. After touring, we relaxed and decided it was time to go back to the ship, walking through the customs area and then the long walk back to the ship, then having drinks on the balcony while watching Barbados fade away. The fourth island that we visited was St. Lucia. We got off the ship quite early and decided to take the local tour, Cosell Tours, which was recommended highly. The tour first takes you to a scenic overlook so that you can see the town of Castries. We have to have our picture there. After the scenic thing, we drive down and we go down to a fantastic little bay. It is Marigot Bay, one of the best anchorages in the whole Caribbean. The movie Dr. Dolittle was shot here. Also, they have the Marigot Yacht Club and Hotel located here. We then left Marigot Bay and stopped for some obligatory pictures on our way to a banana plantation, which was very interesting. Our tour guide showed us some bananas and how they are protected from the elements with blue bags. After only one harvest, the plant dies. Also, bananas are St. Lucia's major export crop. After leaving the banana plantation, we stopped in front of this house to feed the critters some surplus banana peels that were left over. We then stopped at this overlook of the town of Annecy-le-Roi, where Sheri bought a bracelet and got 2 free drinks with it. After finishing our drinks, we proceeded down the coast to the fishing village of Canaries. There we had a brunch where we were able to sample the local food and delicacies. After brunch, we then continued to the Pitons, a respected symbol of St. Lucia, and the town of Soufrière, which is located right below them. The tour includes a visit to Jalousie Beach, which is located between the Pitons. You take a 5-minute boat ride from Soufrière to get there. This is the dock at Jalousie Beach. On one side is the operation controlled by the tour company. On the other side is a 5-star hotel and their beach. The beach is perfect for swimming and snorkeling, and also is a part of a marine management area. After an enjoyable hour at the beach, we head back to Soufrière and on up to Sulphur Springs, a dormant volcano on the island. The caldera still has about 7 acres of activity with bubbling water, hot mud, and all that kind of stuff. A We Were There picture. Also located here was the Blackwater Pool, which was in a very neat area. You could get into the pool, which was about 108 degrees, and smear yourself with black mud, which was supposed to be medicinal. Doug, with lots of black medicine applied, tried to talk Sheri into putting some on. After a little discussion, she put itty bitty bit on. After the volcano, We then went to Torrelli Falls and Botanical Gardens. Doug and Sheri took advantage of the pool and waterfall so that they could remove the remaining bits of mud that they had acquired in the mud bath. These steps leading to the Botanical Garden. A last look at the falls as we leave. Granddaughter fixing Grandma's hair on the side of the road. We see this natural arch before pulling into port where they have duty-free shops. After a little shopping, we say goodbye to St. Lucia. The last island we visited on the tour was St. Martin. They had the usual welcome sign, but included they had a welcome band. The area around the dock was nice and clean. We saw these windmills while walking over to pick up our rental car. A Jeep with doors. We drove over to the French side of the island to the town of Margot, but since it was Sunday, everything was closed up tight. We did go down to the port area and see the area there. We left Margot and followed the Green Line, passing some old villages to Moho Beach, the main attraction of the total cruise. This sign, as you approach the beach, gives you some idea of what you're about to expect. Sheri waiting to see what is going to happen, but it was pretty quiet at the beginning. This little itty-bitty one started the show. We now have a larger one, 737, coming in over the beach, giving you some idea of how low they are. After the 737 landing, there were a few more that came over, but not very impressive. We were waiting, Doug and Sheri standing there waiting, and finally came the big one. Doug got so excited about the 747 that he held the camera sideways. So when you look at the following, remember to lay your head sideways. Here is my vid of the landing with the camera held correctly. After the 747, even a 757 looked small. So it was time to try the Coho Beach water and get a little sunshine before continuing on. We then followed that green line to the other side of the island. We stopped at various roadside pull-offs and rests to look at the scenery and view. Towards the end, we got at the very end of the green line was Paradise Point. We took some pictures there and then started our way back. We then followed the green line back to Phillipsburg, crossing the border once again. You'll notice that there are no guard shacks or guards there. We pass another welcome sign as we returned downtown and visited Old Street, but it was very quiet because it was Sunday. Even the fountain was turned off. After getting some refreshments at a local food stand that was open, they started the trek back to the ship. On the way they saw a welcome sign and goodbye sign. The last picture of the ship before boarding, then seeing the crowd from the balcony. After that, we saw the island slowly fade away. During the 2 days that it took to return to Miami, we had a chance to take a kitchen tour of the ship. Very, very interesting, and lots of stainless steel shining all over the place. We even got to see what we were going to eat the next day. Kitchen was very, very nice. Refrigerators were fantastically big, but pretty empty because they had been feeding people for the last 10 days. Warming up on deck after the cold refrigerator. That night we spent the last hours in the casino. Well, that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it.